Alrighty, folks, let's talk about women and their involvement in World War II. Now, women are going to participate in the war effort at an unprecedented level, okay? Women are going to get involved in major ways that were really not ever seen before. They're going to form their own branches of the military. We're going to get the Women's Army Corps, the WWII, okay? We're going to get the U.S. Naval Women's Reserve, the WAVES, Women's Air Force Service Pilot, WASP, which is an awesome name for a bunch of women flying around in planes, and the Women's Coast Guard Reserve. So they're going to be forming their own branches of the military. I know oftentimes when you think of war, you think of the men off fighting. However, that was not just the case. There were going to be women soldiers during World War II, and this is just an example of that. They're going to serve as air traffic controllers, flight instructors, teletype operators, communication, and then clerical support as well. So they're going to be taking a number of different roles within the military in order to support the war effort right through here. Now, there's going to be 6 million women who are going to enter the workforce at this time as a result of World War II, which is a 57% increase, okay? 57% increase. That is a massive increase when you really think about what's going on. 6 million women entering the workforce to fulfill these jobs when a lot of individuals left to go fight in the war. Working was seen as a woman's patriotic duty during this time. So no longer was it kind of this cultural belief that women should stay at home and be homemakers. Well, that is still important. You now need to go and work because there's this industry that has to be happening. You are going to be the one who needs to be doing this. So women are going to enter a lot of industrial jobs that were left by the men going off to fight. However, they were doing the same job. Women were going to be receiving a lower pay than the men, which unfortunately is something that we still experience today. But there was going to be a lower pay for the women and the same industrial job that men were doing. There was also a lot of social contradiction going on about right here at this time because it was still kind of culturally seen as frowned upon for women to be out in the workforce working and not being at home as mothers, even though they were expected to do it. Okay, so we're talking about the women's patriotic duty to go and work. Well, it's like, hey, you need to do this because it's your duty to be a good patriotic citizen. Also, it's your duty to be a mom, so why are you going out to work? You should be staying at home, but you also need to go work. So it's kind of one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't. But there was this social contradiction right through here. But regardless, a 57% increase in women in the workforce. There was an incredible difficulty for women with children because you can't exactly take your child to a steel mill. So you have to figure out what you do with them. There were a few child care centers as well, so you can't just take your kid to daycare. You got to figure out what you're doing. Sometimes people would kind of band together. If there was like an older lady in the neighborhood who couldn't work, maybe they'd start watching children. Really whatever you could do. A lot of women would end up working late night shifts as well so that they could have their kids sleeping at home where they don't really need them versus during the day when they're awake. Different things like this. We're going to get the Landham Act coming out. This is going to provide federal aid to create child care centers. The federal government is going to be realizing that we can't really get these women into the workforce like we would like and like we really need because no one's taking care of their kids. So we're going to provide these grants to make sure we have some daycare centers so they can take their kids there during the day. There's also going to be an extension of school services as a way of kind of providing some sort of daycare, so to speak, for children. Okay, so kids who are in school can go here before school and then after school to make sure they're being taken care of while the mothers are off working in the factories. High school attendance, though, is going to drop fairly dramatically during World War II because people are going to be going off to join the war effort. Okay, a lot of young individuals, even though they had to be 18 to join the Air Force or the military, not the Air Force wasn't around yet, but the military, you had to be 18. It was pretty easy to sneak in there. So a lot of men are going to be doing that. A lot of women are going to go take jobs in the factory because why go to school when you can be going to make money? You don't have children to take care of, so let's go off here to do this. There was going to be a back-to-school drive launched in 1944 as the war started to come down because people are realizing that school is important. Granted, I'm a teacher saying this now. It's a little bit like no duh, but school's important. You have to go to school, so they're going to get this back-to-school drive in 1944. After the war, there's going to be an upswing in marriage, and as a result, an upspring in babies, okay? This is the baby boomer babies that are coming out, so the people are all getting ready to retire right about now. This is when they're born, okay? Babies are going to drop during the Depression, not literally dropping babies during the Depression because that causes some brain damage. Sorry, that was kind of offensive and horrible, but oh well. There's going to be less babies born during the Great Depression because people can't afford to have a child. It is expensive to have a child, so you don't really want to do that during a major economic depression. So they're going to wait until after the war, when the economy is doing a lot better. There's going to be a lot more babies. Couples are going to be marrying at a record pace at this time. There's incredibly little time in dating between. So just a lot of young people getting married at like 18, 19, 19, 20, immediately starting to have kids right away. They're not really fully mature and fully grown. They don't really know what they want. And this is going to ultimately lead to an increased divorce rate of couples that probably would have broken up after a little while of dating, but they just said, hey, let's get hitched and get married. And that's going to cause some problems. We're going to also get this thing called goodbye babies. So this is when a couple goes and the girl gets pregnant right before the husband or the man goes off to war, and then has the baby once the dad is at war. So we're going to have a lot of mothers who are basically living as single mothers, raising a child that was created right before the father went off to war. Thus, we get goodbye babies. There was a brief period of progress for women during this time. Okay, so it was some progress where women equality was kind of moving in the right direction towards a more equal system. However, it does not last. There's going to be little sympathy towards issues that are going to come about that women are dealing with. There's really not a lot of sympathy and really a lot of support for these issues that the women are dealing with. It's like, hey, figure it out, not our problem. And that's really going to be what's happening. We're going to have these things called 8-hour orphans, which are kids who have a working mother. So it's like they have no family for 8 hours because their mom's off working. It's that like cultural, like, how dare you leave your child at home? So they're going to be orphans. You should not be doing this. But also, it's your patriotic duty to be working in the factory. So these kids with 8-hour mothers working, 8-hour orphans. There's also going to be this kind of mourning and loss of traditional family values of the kind of nuclear family where the father is the breadwinner who does all the work, the mom stays at home, and the kids are just going to be here. Father's off fighting the war, mom's at home, and then mom's off working. So this traditional family values is no longer going to be around. Again, kind of this damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. After the war, a number of social problems are going to be happening as a result of this kind of change in society. Number one, women have now proved and proven that they could survive without their husbands. They don't need a man in their life necessarily to take care of them. They can do it on their own. So a lot of female empowerment coming on right through here. It was a change in how it was when the men left. So society is going to kind of start to shift as a result of many of the men being off fighting the war. Women are going to be kind of coming to the forefront in a way they had not previously done. Women initially saw their changes as temporary. They saw this as, this is a temporary way we're going to be doing this as the war happens. Once the war is over, we'll go back to the way it used to be. However, after the war, a lot of them realized they don't want to return to their previous way of life. This is going to lead to some fairly large changes in society as a result of the end of World War II and the role women played in that effort. Questions, comments, put it down below. Otherwise, I will see you later. Good luck.